Schon Johann Wolfgang von Goethe hat gesagt, warum in die Ferne schweifen? Sieh, das Gute liegt so nah. Nein, keine Sorge, meine Damen und Herren, Sie sind nicht im falschen Film, sondern genau richtig in unserem Webinar zum Automobilland Tschechien, das ein Erfolgsmodell trotz der allgemeinen Branchenkrise ist. Herzlich willkommen aus Prag. Mein Name ist Roman Rauch. Ich bin der Wirtschaftsdelegierte und ich leite das Außenwirtschaftscenter Prag. Warum betone ich die Nähe und die Nachbarschaft so? Tschechien ist für Österreich weltweit der fünftwichtigste Außenhandelspartner überhaupt. Aber wir sehen in unserer Arbeit tagtäglich, und das betrifft auch den Automotive-Bereich, dass für einige Tschechien doch ein zumindest wirtschaftlich relativ unbekannter Nachbar ist. Wir sehen auch, dass manche Firmen Tschechien und das Potenzial, das das Land hat, unterschätzen. Im Automotive-Bereich denke ich da an den Volkswagen-Konzern zum Beispiel, der das lange Zeit ein bisschen vorgelebt hat. Und wir sehen auch, dass Tschechien manchmal noch als verlängerte Werkbank wahrgenommen wird, von dem das Land sich natürlich verabschiedet und sein Wirtschaftsmodell grundlegend ändern muss und auch will. So, in der nächsten Stunde versuchen wir Ihnen dazu, neue Inputs und Informationen zu geben über den tschechischen Automotive-Markt, die Sie so vielleicht noch nicht kennen oder gehört haben. Wir, das sind meine Kollegen Martin Jack. Er leitet unser Büro in Brünn und ist der Hauptzuständige für den Automotive-Bereich. Dazu mein Kollege Oliver Lichtenecker hier in Prag. Der wird dann vor allem den Q&A-Teil übernehmen. Und natürlich unsere beiden tschechischen Branchenexperten, denen ich ganz, ganz herzlich für ihre Unterstützung danke und die gleich zu Wort kommen werden. So, Martin Schack wird jetzt durch das weitere Programm führen. Martin, bitte übernimm du.
Vielen Dank, Roman, für deine Worte. Was uns heute erwartet. In Kürze beginnt die Fachpräsentation, die Ihnen die tschechische Automobilindustrie und ihre Aussichten vorstellt. Natürlich, Sie haben auch die Möglichkeiten, Ihre Fragen zu stellen. Wir kommen zu diesen Fragen zum Schluss bei unserer Q&A-Session, aber Sie können schon jetzt Ihre Fragen stellen. Oben in der Teams-Applikation haben Sie Q&A-Ikone oder je nachdem, in welcher Sprachvariante Sie Teams jetzt nutzen. Wenn Sie weitere Fragen hätten, allgemein, dann schicken Sie uns diese an prag@wko.at und wir werden sie individuell dann beantworten. Und das Gleiche gilt auch dafür. Wir sind nicht sicher, ob wir alle Ihre Fragen beantworten können, aber wir werden uns bemühen, sie auch nachher individuell beantworten. Ein wichtiger Hinweis, dieser Expertenteil ist voll von sehr wichtigen und interessanten Daten und wir sind nicht imstande, alle diese Daten ins Detail zu kommentieren. Aber gute Nachricht für Sie ist, Sie werden diese Präsentation dann bekommen nach unserem Webinar und Sie können diese Daten schön und in der Ruhe durchsehen. Nur letzter Hinweis, dieser Webinar wird aufgenommen. And now is the perfect time to switch to English as we begin with the core element of our today's webinar, our experts presentation. And when we are speaking about expert presentation, I have to say that we have really renowned experts from Czech Republic in the field of automotive industry. One of them is Mr. Petr Knapp, who is Senior Advisor at Ernst & Young, and also Tomáš Jungwirth, Communications Manager from Czech Automotive Industry Association. And because I wouldn't like to forget anything from their background, so I want to ask them to introduce themselves and then we can start with the presentation. Gentlemen, the floor is yours.
Good morning from me. Thank you very much, Mr. Jacques. And gentlemen, dear guests. So today we would like to look into both the global automotive and specifically what's happening in the region in the Czech Republic and what could be relevant for you. My name is Petr Knap. I'm the senior advisor, as it was said, with EY, and have been very actively involved with automotive since about 2000, mainly strategy topics, industry overall, operational themes and others. Worked with companies like BMW, Porsche, Skoda Auto, of course, also with the ASEA Association, as well as Autosap that Tomáš will present here today with you. EY is probably well known. What you may know a bit less about EY than audit and tax is that within those 400,000 people that EY has got globally, there are about 20,000 that focus on automotive, that they have global centers across the world focusing on this industry, that they also are authors of the TISEX certification, which is an industry standard, that the Czech team has got 20 plus people that focus solely on the automotive topics, have developed their own CRM solution for the dealers and importers, and advise suppliers as well as the OEMs. So that would be on my end, and handing over to Tomáš.
Ladies and gentlemen, also good morning from my side. First of all, I would like to thank to Advantage Austria for having me in this webinar. My name is Tomáš Jungwirth, and I'm Communications Manager in Czech Automotive Industry Association. Let me briefly introduce you our association, which mainly works as a networking platform for Czech automotive industry companies. We also do the legislative lobby for them. We provide industry analysis and statistics, etc., including the thing which could be interesting for you, and it's a magazine Český autoprůmysl, which is also available on autosap.cz. With Peter, we splitted our today's agenda into 5 main parts, plus questions and discussion. In the beginning, I would like to mention a few things about automotive industry in the Czech Republic, then some numbers about productions, exports, sales, and employment. Then we will focus on threats and challenges which are ahead of the automotive industry, and of course our strong position of the Czech automotive industry. At the end of the presentation, there will be the future outlook and opportunities and strategic investments. So let's jump into the first part, briefly about automotive industry in the Czech Republic. Most of the people thinks or sees that the Czech Republic automotive is just about Škoda, Hyundai or Toyota, but there is more. There is up to 800 companies somehow linked to the Czech automotive industry. 1/3 of them are the Czech companies, 2/3 are multinational corporations. De facto, we can say that the companies located across the Czech Republic complete range of parts for the production of ICE vehicles. We have the companies of all sizes. As you can see, almost the half of them are small companies up to 250 employees, etc., till the biggest one, that's the 1%, up to 40,000 employees, and that's the Škoda. As you can see on the right side, Czech Automotive Industry Association, currently we have 131 members. The biggest group are suppliers. The smallest group are OEMs. As you can see on the map, we don't have a specific hubs for automotive companies, but the whole Czech Republic is one automotive industry companies hub. Czech automotive industry is a pillar of the Czech economy for decades. Automotive industry contributes to 10% of GDP, accounts for 25% of Czech exports, 30% of industrial and R&D investments. Directly, we employ 180,000 people, and indirectly, it's almost 500,000 people. Wages in automotive are 30% above the average wage in the Czech Republic, and every year we brings 90 billion Czech crowns into the state budget. Despite the size of our country and the population, and in the comparison to global economics like China and US, we are very visible not only in Europe but also in the world. Here you can see some numbers. When I start with the first one, when we see the production of buses per capita in Europe and in global, we are the global and Europe #1. We see the production of passenger cars per capita, we are second in the world. And if we count in total numbers, we are the third in Europe and the 8th in global vehicle production. When we jump into the second part about numbers of production, export, sales, and employment, let's start from the global perspective. Before I start this part, I just have to say that I have to use the whole numbers for the whole year. It means in this case, it's the year 2024, because we don't have the data for 2025 yet. But when we look from the global perspective, we can see that vehicle production is shifting from traditional automotive regions like North America and Europe to the Asia and Pacific. The countries with the highest rate and increase are India 5% and China 5.4%. The good for us is if you look on the right side, there are top 5 EU countries with the production, and as you can see, some of them are decreasing. The Czech Republic, which is the third one, is rapidly increasing, and in a total number, we produce more cars than France and Italy together. Here you can see the segments we produce in the Czech Republic, which is yearly somewhere between 1.4 and 1.5 million vehicles, and 98% of production, as you can see, are passenger cars and light-duty vehicles. Year 2024 was the record year for us. From the all amount of produced cars, you can see that the numbers of electrified vehicles are growing every year, especially the battery electric vehicles and plug-in hybrids. You can see the numbers on the right side from the year 2024, and down the left, then you can see the double numbers in battery electric vehicles and plug-in hybrids. Most of our production is exported abroad. You can see it on the left side on the groups. More than 90% from the OEMs are exported, more than 76% from suppliers, and more than 23% from the others, I mean R&D centers. Top 10 export destinations are these countries on the right side. Our main partner for export is for a long time Germany. Austria is the number 9. Slight revenue growth reflecting the market stagnation. I'm talking about the market stagnation globally. And you can see the numbers in total in OEMs, suppliers, and others too. The number of our employees has been stable for a long time. We have around 140,000 employees. Wages in automotive, as I mentioned before, are still above the Czech average. The average salary is over the 59,000. And now another part, changing ecosystem, threats and challenges ahead, and I'm overtaking the presentation to Peter.
So let me start from the bigger picture, let's say, and the mega trends, which are of course impacting the Czech Republic and the region as well, as automotive is extremely global and interconnected. industry. So these 6 megatrends, as we define them at EY, I think you're aware of all of them, but the brutality is, I think, the combination of all of them being very active, very impactful at the same time. So of course technology is changing, not just in the powertrain, but also in the software defined vehicle platforms, etc. And we will talk about that when we speak about what are the opportunities in the future automotive ecosystem and production. The regulations we all know, but they also bring opportunities in terms of recycling, in terms of changing the powertrain. Those that are disrupting, costly and unpredictable are, of course, geopolitical uncertainties in terms of trade tariffs and also supply chain disruptions. These are very much interconnected. What we all face in Central Europe and in Europe overall is the demography challenge, aging and I would say a reskilling needing workforce that we have at the moment. But thanks God we have it at least. And the customer preferences. So the customers are more demanding. They are uncertain about the future. They are trying to make their mind in terms of what should be their next powertrain. Should they own the car? What car it should be? And the offer and the supply is increasing incredibly and is becoming very complex. If you imagine how many cars you could pick from 20 years ago and today, it's a factor of 7, 8 to 1 more options these days. In a few numbers, what is actually changing, and Tomáš was talking about that, is the shift of the production. You see the millions of cars lost, 3 million of cars lost in the production in Europe, and 33 million gained in China over the past 10 years or so. We see the jobs disappearing in Europe, about 100,000 job losses and reductions announced in the years 24 to 25. And we see also relatively low utilization in the European factories. All this has got effects. Some of the production is shifting eastward. Some of the production we losing compared to Asia and Pacific, as we discussed. What is happening on the positive side is what I already hinted are the changes that relate the software-defined vehicles. There's much more code and much more software in the vehicles today, and it's much more critical for both the functioning of the vehicle and the experience and the entertainment level of the car for the driver and for the passengers. The BEV charging is another huge opportunity. This is the estimated market in 2030 going from 18 to 23 billion US dollars in Europe itself. And this brings lots of opportunities around batteries, around the new business models in charging, around the platforms and monetization of different services. You see also a big role being played in the digital sales. So the digital presence, digital tools, configuration, virtual reality, all these elements of the sales process is becoming incredibly important. And last but not least is the circularity that we see in terms of recycling demands, because the end of life requirements for the vehicles becoming much more stringent in the coming years, and also the recycled material that has to be used in production is increasing, and a good part of it, soon 25%, should be coming from the scrap vehicles, from the vehicles we will be able to recycle and reuse to the maximum extent. And the slide that illustrates what is happening actually in the demand and the level of uncertainty and difficult predictability about the future of the market, especially in terms of the powertrain composition, is showing this EY regular survey, which goes every year and a half. It's asking the respondents across 27 markets also globally, all the big automotive markets, what will be the powertrain of the car you will buy or lease in the coming 2 years. And you will see that the top line, which has been going up to top 58%, which combines all the electrified versions, so hybrids, plug-in hybrids, and the pure electric vehicles, has been increasing over the years until reaching those 58%. But then it collapsed in the survey last fall, going down to about 50% all of a sudden, which means we see a dramatic shift in the preferences, at least in some continents. This is a lot driven by the US, but also by some Asian countries. So we may see in the global demand big fluctuations in what was originally kind of hoped to be relatively linear transition to electrified vehicles. It will not be happening this smoothly, as we already can see from the demand that is expected in the next 2 years. And my final slide in this section is on China. When we speak about production, when we speak about new technologies, we cannot avoid the factor of this giant factory of the world. The first line probably is the most stunning one, right? You see that in 25, in the light commercial vehicles and passenger cars, China, in terms of production, was bigger than US, EU, and Japan combined. Just let it digest. So close to 35 million vehicles being produced in China, and their utilization factor is somewhere around 50 to 60%. They have got currently the capacity to theoretically produce all the units that world absorbs in a year, which is roughly 80 million or 80 plus million units of cars globally. So that is a major factor that is impacting suppliers, that is impacting, of course, the global balance of trade, because China, as you see on the last line, has become the biggest exporter of cars. A lot of it is also aiming towards Europe, and they are bringing their own suppliers. So the potential market for the European suppliers that have been used to supply to the traditional OEMs based in Europe, they will have less and less business in Europe, at least. So this is a huge factor that we will see having impact from the currently roughly 5+% of the EU market being captured by the Chinese brands. This can easily grow up to something like 15% in the coming years, unless we take some drastic measures on protecting the EU market. So that would be from me at the moment, and over to Tomáš.
As we are in the part of challenges, so we can see that since 2016, the global automotive industry has faced many challenges. You can see that on the newspaper headlines. We had the Dieselgate, we had the COVID, we had the year 2035, and ban of the sales of new cars with the combustion engines. We have many strategies when the big companies mentioned that they will go all electric. I remember when I was doing some strategy that Mercedes-Benz mentioned till 2030 they will be fully electric. Then we have a topic of Euro 7. We have a pandemic. We have chip shortages after the pandemic. We still have, unfortunately, expensive energy. Škoda halted the production in Russia and in other countries. We have a big topic of expansion of Chinese electric vehicles, which are getting stronger over the world. And of course, we have the new tariffs on import of all cars in the US. So these challenges are also reflecting in domestic production. In my opinion, this is one of two most interesting slides in my presentation. And you can see the four picked years. When I'll start with the first one, the year of 2019, the gray line, you can see it as a pre-crisis year, when the production in the beginning of the year were somewhere over 100,000 passenger cars. At the end of the year, we were, as I mentioned, somewhere between 1.4 and 1.5 million produced passenger vehicles. But then the year of 2020 came, and you can see the huge decline in April, almost 90%. At the end of the year, we were somewhere over 1.15 million passenger cars produced. After this year, we have learned a lot. We become resistant, but we thought that everything worse is behind us. But then the year of 2021, which we can call the semiconductors shortage year, came, And you can see that in those months, there were not that big decline of production, but at the end of the year, I mean, at the total number at the end of the year, it was under in total of 50,000 produced cars, lower than the year of COVID. Then, for example, there is a record year of 2024 where we have started really great results at the beginning of the year, as you can see on the blue line. And at the end of the record year, we were over 1.45 million passenger cars produced. As you can see, at the beginning of the year 2026, first quarter, we are in the record results again, right in the beginning. But in previous slides, I mentioned the challenges in last decade, but these are the main challenges which are impacting the automotive industry nowadays. We have a Chinese competition, which is focusing on the new markets, including Europe. They see many sweet spots here. For example, in the Czech Republic, we have somewhere around 10 brands like MG, BYD, Lynk & Co, and others, and their current share is somewhere around 4.6%. Of course, there is impacts of the Iran war. Currently, we will see how it will be in close weeks, but currently we're not seeing a supply disruption, but increasing in raw materials costs. That's what's visible now, especially in aluminum, plastics, helium, or energy costs. Another main challenge of nowadays is the transition to electromobility and the year of 35. Definitely, we see that 100% till 2035 was too ambitious, and honestly speaking, it was and it is unreal, which shows the customers nowadays, and it will go much slower. Of course, there is a weak demand and market stagnation, which is the most visible, especially in a German market. But when we look at the European registrations, at the beginning of the year, we were somewhere around minus 1.2%. And the most visible is Volkswagen situation, where the main problem is profitability. Not the amount of sold cars, but mostly the profitability. And the last main challenge I've chosen to this slide is over-regulation, because automotive industry nowadays is one of the most over-regulated industry in Europe, where we have 150 regulations and 30 directives. Here are a few interesting numbers from our VDA study about the weak investment and falling employment in Germany regarding the current situation, where we can see that the investment activity in Germany remains weak when 72% of companies postponed, relocated, or completely cancelled planned investments in Germany. There is also a decline in jobs, minus 6%. And 64% of surveyed companies reduced their number of employees in Germany in the year of 2025. 87% of them answered that it's because the insufficient competitiveness of the industry in Germany. In the lower part of the slide, you can see the number of employees in the German automotive industry nowadays. And you can see the lowest number in 2025, not in last 7 years, but in real, it's in last 10 years. Which is also visible in the new registrations in Europe in the first quarter. Especially on the left top, you can see Volkswagen Group and the Volkswagen S itself, which is minus 5%. The visibility here for us is through the Škoda brand, which visibly holds the Volkswagen group above the water with 15.7% above. Another part of our presentation, a strong position of the Czech automotive industry, and I'll click you, Peter, the next slide.
Thank you, Tomáši. A brief one slide from me, again, opening from the broader perspective on the Czech industry situation, and then we will dive into the automotive specifically. There are four main factors that we have seen in play over the past several decades already that still have got, I think, the strategic implications for investors and are attractive. So one is the location. The location, of course, is very close to the major and by far the largest European market in Germany, both their production as well as sales channels. The qualified workforce, this has been a traditional industrial country and still based on very quality technical jobs, despite the demographic challenges that we have been talking about, and the need to reskill and get more mechatronics and IT kind of enhanced job profiles and competencies. Still, the labor costs are competitive. Of course, Western Balkans, Turkey, Ukraine are much lower, but still in the comparison to Western Europe, there is a cost arbitrage, and we can see very good value and quality for good price in terms of the labor force, which is linked to the relatively very stable compared to especially some European countries, very stable, very loyal workforce with very limited disruptions in terms of trade unions activity. This is quite an exception when there's a disruption or some emergency status due to trade union activity, and it goes rather smoothly and cooperatively between the workforce and the management in our production facility. So all these four factors, I think, still play a role and make Czech Republic a very, very interesting investment destination, as we will see still in the following slides that the FDI activity is still strong. So back to you, Tomáši.
I'll just add another three advantages of the Czech automotive industry. As we say, the engine of the Czech economy is running at the full speed. How is it possible? So I'll just add three advantages. After Peter, the Czech automotive industry also have a strong supplier ecosystem, tier 1 to 3 suppliers, which are able to supply not only individual components, but also complete systems. After all the challenges and the hard years, we have also a high resilience, which we learned during the COVID chip crisis, rapid production. And I can say it also is our job as the AutoSub platform, if I can say here. Strong OEMs offering of all types of powertrains. I mean, the OEMs in the Czech Republic are covering all powertrains, ICEs, battery electric vehicles, plug-in hybrids, and hybrids as itself.
Maybe Tomáši, on the three OEMs, maybe we could also mention that we're lucky to have super strong and successful brands, right? Škoda has been this year number 2 in Europe, with Toyota basically fighting for that, which are the two important ones, and Hyundai is still doing very fine and having their only plant in the EU in the Czech Nošovice.
Exactly, and they have big goals in the future. We will see it in upcoming slides. As Peter mentioned, the most visible brand is Škoda Auto, and here you can see its main drivers why the Škoda is that successful. Škoda is a well-positioned product offering. I mean, practical, spacious vehicles, competitive price with a strong design, and still simply clever solutions. They have a flexible powertrain strategy. As I mentioned, they cover all the portfolio of ICEs, battery electric vehicles, plug-in hybrids. They are also strengthening their brand equity, especially in the countries like Switzerland, Austria, and Denmark, where are very visible. They are strong growth beyond the Europe. It means they doubled the volumes in India. They started production in Vietnam, and they are successfully searching for new markets where to grow. Cost efficiency as a core strength. Of course, they're the part of Volkswagen Group, where they get shared group platforms for the new electric vehicles. I mean, the MQB and MEB platform for electric vehicles, but with a combination of localized production and a short supply chain in the Czech Republic. Last but not least, Škoda has a strong dealer and importer network, which is well established and reliable sales industry distribution network. As Peter mentioned, it's not just about the Škoda. We have other brands which are doing very well. As an example, we can talk about Toyota, which did a huge investment to expand a plant in Kolín, where they will produce electric vehicles and batteries from 2028. It's the only plant in Europe for Toyota brand which will do this. And there is more to come. I picked the example of Mercedes-Benz Trucks, which just a few weeks ago announced the new construction of a manufacturing plant in Cheb, where they will produce 25,000 trucks per year. I mean, battery electrics and ICEs too. Czech brands and models are successful on global roads. I think this is something very interesting. You can read in detail after the presentation, because we need to be on the time. You can see the most successful models as nowadays the electric versions of Enyaq and Elroq. Of course, the long-term ranked in top 10 best-selling cars in Europe. I'm talking about the Škoda Octavia, Hyundai Tucson, which makes 70% of the production in Nošovice plant in Hyundai. And of course, our Java motorcycles, Tatra heavy-duty vehicles, buses, as we mentioned in the beginning, which are very important for the Czech automotive industry. And of course, the small cars from Kolín. And on the right side, you can see the full operation in 2030 for the Mercedes-Benz trucks. All the time we are talking about the OEMs, but depending on exports, you can see that suppliers also play a very strong role in the Czech automotive industry. When from the top 10s, we can see 2, 4, 5, 6 of them are big suppliers. We are getting to another part, future outlook, opportunities, and strategic investments. And I'm clicking the next slide, Peter, for you.
Thank you very much, Tomáši. So we are getting to the final section where we will be illustrating and suggesting some areas where the future value lies. And I'm opening up with this chart, which goes a bit deeper than my previous comment on the slide close to the megatrends, and now going a bit deeper. What are the components and areas where you can expect both the growth and the attractiveness in terms of the value? Basically, the redistribution of value from the pure, let's say, assembly and manufacturing to the areas in the new electric mobility and in the more sophisticated systems is illustrated here in more detail. When we focus on these top 10 topics of the high potential value pools that we see there, we can combine them into an area of the EV battery materials and production, which unfortunately to a large extent is dominated by the Asian producers, namely CATL, CATL, and BYD. And of course, Samsung plays a role. Regionally, Poland has taken quite a big chunk of that with LG, and Hungary is following. In the other topics, where I think it's more relevant to also what Tomáš will be going into detail in a minute, is the automated vehicles or autonomous driving and ADAS, so the assistance and security systems in the cars components. This is something where the growth can be expected. Similarly, what we mentioned a few times here already is the SDV, the software-defined vehicles, where software is becoming the core component, core differentiator in the new platforms that are now becoming more and more a standard, especially in the EV world. But there are also adjacent areas that are evolving together with the electrified or electric mobility space, which is charging and storage solutions that we also touched on a few minutes ago. So this is where growth is in terms of business models, in terms of new technologies, in terms of supplies like cabling, of course, and other components. And also we see a big area that is adjacent here is the recycling and the circular themes. So recycling and extracting materials from end-of-life vehicles and other sources, purification and preparing them for reuse in the new production. And anything that also relates to the EV manufacturing, which you see just below this quadrant of the top 10. So the EV manufacturing, various components, be it cabling, be it anything that goes into electromotors, etc., are, of course, future interesting and growing parts of the supply chains also in this region. So opening with that, we get a bit deeper through Tomáš and your questions, I assume.
Thank you, Peter. As Peter mentioned, I will jump into more detail in key areas and priority technologies of the future mobility, as you can see in 8 boxes here. So let's go step by step, one by one. First, powertrains for low-emission mobility. The real battle nowadays is no longer between BEVs versus ICEs. It's about the entire energy ecosystem. Batteries are no longer just about capacity, but about the whole life cycle impact, including the CO2 footprint. Actually, the focus is shifting from range anxiety to charging experience, where I'm talking about the speed, availability, and user experience. The second box is about the vehicle design and engineering. We're definitely moving towards software-driven design. Hardware follows software, not the other way around. And up to 90% of testing now happens in simulations, not in the physical world. Software, electronics, and digitalization. Vehicles are becoming software defined, of course. The value of the cars is shifting from hardware to software, enabling the over-the-air updates. When we are talking about the AI, which is also part of this box, it's not just the buzzword anymore. It's actively used in other systems, predictive maintenance, and energy consumption optimization. Well, I have to say in this part that Tesla definitely has reset customer expectations because cars are expected to improve after the purchase. When we move to robotization, automation of production, it's no longer optional. It's definitely essential. The key message in here is that the factory of the future is not fully automated, it's adaptive. I'm talking about that we need to have a factory that can quickly adapt to changes. Automated driving, as also Peter mentioned before, and new mobility models. The level 4 and 5 in autonomous driving is progressing slowly. The real focus today is on level 2+, and of course monetization of ADAS features. The biggest barrier nowadays in autonomous driving is not technology, but it's a regulation. And fortunately, we have to say, and we can say, that the Czech Republic, after the Germany, is the second country in Europe which already have a regulation for autonomous vehicles. The part of advanced materials and manufacturing technologies, key trends in here are definitely recyclable composites and bio-based materials. In many cases, materials defines the product more than the design itself. Measurement and standardization. Critical areas to focus on in here are battery safety, charging interoperability, and ADAS validation. And the last part in detail, I'm talking about data. Last, but the most important, of course, data is the new fuel of mobility. The biggest values in here comes from predictive maintenance, production optimization, and customer personalization. The company of automotive of the future is a data company that also builds a car. As you can see here, as I was talking about the key parts of the future mobility and the most important parts, you can see that the main brands and their activities in investments in the Czech Republic, which are indicating the future industry directions. You can see the huge investment of BMW for development and testing of autonomous vehicles in the Czech Republic. Schaeffler, which is producing power electronics for electric vehicles. Škoda, with a virtual development center. Aisin, which is producing electric drive units for BMWs in electric versions. onsemi and a big business around silicon carbide production. Toyota, the one we mentioned with production of cars and batteries, I mean electric cars and batteries. Škoda, new battery assembly facility in Mladá Boleslav, which is supporting the whole Volkswagen group with batteries, and also the mentioned Daimler Truck. Regarding that, quite quickly, because we're on the time, here you can see the beginning of the year in production in the Czech Republic, which is doing really great, but the more important on this slide is the percentage of somehow electrified vehicles, where we can see the numbers are rapidly increasing, especially in a group of hybrid electric vehicles, which increase in 21%. The last slide of our presentation is about the outlook for Czech automotive production in 2026, which you can see on the right part of the slide. The estimated growth, as we see it, is 2 or 3%. At the end of the year, we are expecting the production in passenger cars somewhere over 1.48 million cars. On the left side, you can see the new registrations in Europe and in European Union, which is, in our outlook, a bit estimated stagnation around 0 or -1%. That's all from me and Peter from the presentation part, and I'm giving the word to Mr. Jacques.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you very much for your presentation and this really very compact information about Czech automotive industry and many points that could be a motivation for our Austrian companies. What could be the future of their business and also business in the Czech Republic? And before we will start with our Q&A session, let me jump briefly in German for a brief description of our next event. Für Oktober 2027 planen wir wieder unsere Wirtschaftsmission Automobilindustrie Tschechien. Das ist eine Veranstaltung, die schon seit Jahren läuft und es ist ein Treffpunkt von Profis in Automobilindustrie und wir sind dort regelmäßig mit Gruppe von österreichischen Firmen. Diese Veranstaltung ist vor allem an die Zulieferer orientiert und wie wir gehört haben, die Zulieferer sind in Tschechien besonders wichtig. Also ganz kurz, wir bieten die Möglichkeit der Präsentation, wir bieten B2B-Gespräche mit ausgewählten Firmen und viele andere Sachen. Wenn Sie Interesse haben, jederzeit kontaktieren Sie uns unter unseren Kontaktdaten. Oder können Sie auch scannen unsere Veranstaltungsübersicht und da finden Sie vielleicht auch mehrere Veranstaltungen, die für Sie interessant sein können. Well, and now is the time for our Q&A session, and my colleague Oliver Lichtenegger is ready, and my very first question is, Oliver, do we have any questions from the audience?
That's the biggest question up front. Thank you, Martin. Thank you also to our experts for the really valuable insights into the Czech automotive industry, but also beyond borders on the global trends and upcoming technologies.
I would also like to ask our audience if you have any questions, please, as my colleague Mr. Schack described in the beginning, you can use the icon on the top of your Microsoft Teams screen where it says Q&A or F&A if you have it in German to ask your questions. You can also ask them anonymously, so you don't have to disclose your name if you don't feel comfortable. I will ask the question for you then to the experts. In the meantime, I will start with one question that I think is very interesting for everyone. Maybe I would start with you, Mr. Knapp. We touched upon future technologies. We touched upon what could be the future value pools in the automotive sector. It would be interesting to know, what do you think, which future technologies in the automotive sector do you think that the Czech Republic can play an important or leading role in going forward?
Yeah, this is a great question. I think linking to what Tomáš had in his detailed slide with 10 elements, I would definitely echo and stress the area of the software, including software testing, which links and builds on the big tradition of the Czech security software industry, for example, as well as video gaming. I mean, may look strange, but some of these technologies are extremely relevant for example, the testing scenarios and building competencies for the autonomous driving or assisted driving technologies. So that's one big area. Another one is definitely various electronics solutions. The electrotechnical industry has been very strong. It's both domestic as well as Siemens, ABB, and other players, and they are becoming also much more critical component of the architecture in the modern cars, given how much light voltage and how much electronics is being used in that. So that's another stream I would highlight, and then possibly still linking to the software areas where it's building the new models of multimodal mobility. For example, we have very successful startups in the area, for example, optimizing a region public transport service, optimizing the cost and the vehicles used, for example. So the solutions which are the layer above the mobility vehicles as such. So behind the software, behind the hardware is the software layer, which works with data, that we also showed as one of the big themes, but not only for OEMs, but also third parties that are orchestrators of the transport. So this is also linking to some stronghold in e-business, in developing various business models that we see in the Czech Republic as a very strong part of the DNA of Czech industry.
Thank you. Very, very interesting. And thank you for also referring back to the key areas shown in the slides. I remember one of them, and that was very intriguing to me as well, was the topic of autonomous driving. Mr. Jungwirth, you briefly touched upon the regulatory framework that the Czech Republic is developing. I would also like to know, what do you think, or what do you know is the Czech Republic already doing, or is the Czech automotive industry already doing in terms of preparation for autonomous driving? Where are we at? What is your outlook? What can we expect from it in the future?
Sure. From my perspective, as from the perspective of communications manager, I can see that the big media topic nowadays, of course, are electric vehicles. But in upcoming years, I mean 5-10 years, I think the topic of autonomous vehicles will be much bigger and much more important, and it will bring a huge business. So we want to be ready for that. As I mentioned in the previous slides, the important for this at the first point is to have a legislation. So we saw it, and somehow actively here in the Czech Automotive Industry Association, we started started to work on the legislation first. Successfully and happily, we nowadays have it, and the cars with the level of 3+ are ready to drive on Czech roads. So we will see how long it will take to be fully automated on the Czech roads, but with the first step, we are ready.
Do you have any educated guess, since you're an expert, on when we're gonna see the first autonomous cars driving through Prague?
From my opinion, we will start definitely on the highways, because nowadays the BMWs, the 7-liners, and the S-classes, Mercedeses, they are able to go in the third level of autonomous driving. So we will start here. But from my side, I can't wait for the autonomous driving pods at the level 4 or 5, because for me it will be much better than to drive a car in the morning to the office to drive with the pod, which will take me on the time. So I don't want to guess when it will be, but I think it will definitely not be the next year, unfortunately, but we will have to wait, but I'm really looking forward for that.
Very exciting. Thank you so much. Maybe let's go back from the future more to the present, and maybe from the more positive topics, unfortunately, to the more difficult topics. You mentioned several challenges that the automotive industry, but the broader economy as a general is facing currently. And one of them, obviously, is the current crisis in the Middle East. Mr. Knapp, maybe the question to you. What impact do you think does this current crisis have on the global automotive sector?
Well, yeah, it's building up. Thank you for the question. But then I would also like to point there's a question in the Q&A, so we should answer the one that has come. In terms of the effects in rising costs, Tomáš has been already mentioning some of the components, aluminium, plastics. This is a long-ranging impact. It will be also lubricants, where the supply is limited or even damaged some of the production facilities. So that's all a long-term impact. God forbid this is extended over several months. I think then we would see really major impacts. In terms of the kind of at least a bit kind of positive or in some positive development changes is the rising interest in the EVs. So we can see this has had a measurable impact over the past, what is it, like 6 weeks, 7 weeks, we have had this crisis when we see a growing demand, both used and new EVs among the households. Of course, the fleets have got more long-term and other incentives, but we see the public awareness that this could be one way how to become more resilient towards the oil shocks.
Thank you, Mr. Knapp. Then, referring to one of the questions that was posed by the audience, is hydrogen currently being considered for vehicle production in the Czech Republic? For example, for buses. I think the two of you can choose who would like to answer the question.
As far as I know, not at the moment. I think it's overall a big, over the past year and a half, I think the electric buses, specifically in this, where we had some hopes for the city transport, the electric buses have been gaining in terms of performance and their prominence. I do not know about any serious plans of hydrogen production units in the Czech Republic. Tomáši, do you?
As Peter said, from the statistics numbers, I can see that there is increasing the number of electric buses. We don't have any produce of hydrogen, not yet. I think, or I believe, and somehow I saw it somewhere, the technology is definitely there, also for buses, but I don't know about any production plans in the Czech Republic, unfortunately.
May I briefly jump in on the issue of hydrogen? I know from large Austrian freight forwarding companies that they have run some tests with hydrogen trucks, but the experiences were not positive because of the sharply reduced payloads and the very few sort of refueling stations. So it appears that they will not continue with these kind of tests. And from my knowledge, only in the rail sector, Czech rail sector, there are some more efforts to turn to hydrogen-powered locomotives and what have you, but not we don't see it on the roads, I guess. Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe we have to look at the time. We are about to finish, but one last question related more to the market entry in Czech Republic, or to doing business in the Czech Republic. One question in the audience is, and you can choose, also including Mr. Schack now, I think. Besides the B2B meeting in October, what do you think is the best way to get in touch with the person in charge of the OEMs and potential companies?
So I would say following, definitely every company has their own policy for communication with potential business partners, and that's why I can't answer directly. It would be the best way if you contact us and we can discuss really which company is interesting for you, and then we can try to find a way. And I hope also Tomáš Jungwirth and the association could support us eventually.
I can confirm, yeah.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. As far as I see that there is no further question, and as I also have a look at the time, I think we should slowly begin to close this session. I would also like to stress again that everyone will receive the presentation afterwards, so you can have a closer look in, especially to the interesting statistics and figures that we saw during the presentation. I would also like to thank you again to our experts and speakers for the excellent presentation, very interesting insights into the industry. Thank you also to everyone for joining. And related again to the very last question, of course, you are always free to send us an email, inquire about whatever is relevant to you for entering the Czech markets or for doing business. Even without concrete business yet in the Czech Republic, of course, you can always contact us for information or for a general exchange of thoughts, and we can try to help you. Yeah, without further ado, I think everything left for me to say is goodbye. I wish you a successful day ahead, and thank you again for joining. Thank you, everyone.